Hello friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. Today's video is not planned. Let's talk about it. I'm currently working on a video that was supposed to be done on Tuesday. It did not get done on Tuesday, and it's not gonna be done next Tuesday either. So I was gonna film this when it was actually September, like officially fall, but here we are jumping the gun because I don't want to go 2 weeks without posting content, and I'm ready for fall. I don't look ready for fall. It's like 100 degrees outside today, but I'm ready for it. Yesterday was like the valley where I live. It was their like first day of school. Obviously, I'm not in school anymore, which is so crazy to think about. This is my first year of my life where I don't have to go to classes, so I'm so excited. But that's besides the point. So anyway, I'm going to be recommending you 10 books that I love and I think are very like fall coded. Most of them are thrillers. There's I think one horror and some like literary stuff in here as well. I just have 10 books that I think really fit the vibes for fall. So that's what we're doing today, and hopefully this will be up within, like 2 days of filming it, and then I can finally finish that vlog that I'm trying to film right now for you. Okay, I'm gonna talk about the 2 books that I don't own first. So the first one is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. This book I read last fall, and it was so funny. Like, actually had me audibly laughing. It's definitely like spooky. Greatest apologies, cats. This book I read last fall. It was so like Halloween coded, and it was honestly really funny. It is horror, but it's like funny horror, although I do remember a couple points getting pretty graphic, so just be prepared for it, because I felt like it kind of came out of nowhere. Like, I didn't know if I should expect it or not, but it was definitely there. But it wasn't like the kind of horror that's gonna give you nightmares, you know what I mean? Because it was just like funny coded. We're following this brother and this sister. Their parents have recently died. The sister lives like across the country, and the brother I think lives in the hometown. They don't get along. They're not close bonded sibling. But anyway, they have to go like clean out the house. And at first it's like a financial thing for them. They're like, who's gonna get the money? How are we gonna divide this up? Because their will is like a little messed up, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. They don't like each other. The sister is like, let's just get this done as fast as we can. The sister is like pretty quick to notice that something's wrong with the house. And the brother is like, no way, nothing's wrong with the house. And the sister's like, no, bro, it's literally haunted. Like, I'm either insane or this house is haunted. And there's just some really funny scenes in there. Grady Hendrix is really, really great for horror. I would also honestly recommend, what is it? The one about vampires, the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I think that's right. I'd recommend both of those, honestly. They're great fall reads, and they're both funny. Both of them have like physically made me laugh audibly, but they're both great books, and I would highly recommend. And then the second one, which I'm sure literally everyone has read, but just in case you haven't, this is your sign to start the Finley Donovan series. Finley Donovan is killing it. Is also so funny. Hands down the best mystery that I have ever read in my entire life, like cozy mystery. Super funny. The characters are great. Obviously, we're following Finley and her sidekick Vero and their kids and her relationship with her husband, all on top of someone mistaking Finley as like a hitman when she's actually just writing a book. It's really, really great. I think that the plot lines are awesome because there's more than one, and there's just so many things to be invested in. So even if you're not sure about the mystery aspect, it's worth it because there's just so much other funny stuff happening. So those are the 2, or I guess 3 books that I don't own that I want to recommend you. Now we'll get into what I do own that I want to recommend you. The first one, this is one of my favorite books of all time, is Where the Mountain Meets the Moon by Grace Lynn. This is a middle grade novel, and it's a fantasy. I feel like winter is my primary fantasy girl time, but fall is definitely my transitional passage for that. And this is one of my favorites. I reread it almost every single year. There were some really, really beautiful illustrations in this. Okay, there's some really beautiful illustrations in this. Hi, please focus on the book. And there's a lot of like Chinese history and Chinese lessons in here woven into the story. There are dragons. We are following this little girl who is on a journey basically because her valley's in the drought and they're struggling out there. And she's like, I'm gonna go find some water and make a wish. And so many magical things happen in between. There's a lot of moral lessons in here about like greed and values. I don't know why the cats always do this. They're like fast asleep and I sit down to film a video and they start running around like crazy. It's super loud, it's super annoying. Hopefully they'll stop. Anyway, if you like me are a fellow fantasy reader in the fall, and you haven't checked this out, it's honestly so cute. It is seriously one of the books that really made me love reading as a child. I remember the first time I read it. I was in 4th grade. I remember it well, and I loved it. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend this if it sounds interesting to you. Okay, now we can get into some horror. I just set these down in the stack that I pulled them off my shelf. They're not really organized at all, so apologies. We're going to be going all over the place. I'm thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid. This is also pretty popular, I think, and it's very, very hard to tell you what it's about. I think it's best, honestly, if you go into this blind. I had to read it twice before I even fully understood what was going on in here because it's just so odd. I've seriously never read a book this strange, and I think there's like a blurb on here that's like, it'll give you nightmares, but you don't know why. And that is so true. We're following this girl and this man on a trip to like see his family in the countryside in the winter. And it is just weird. And I'm not gonna say anything else about this. It definitely like actually was making my heart race when I was reading this. I was reading this in the fall and it was dark early and I was reading in my bed. And I low-key like got up and like locked my door because it's scary. So this is great. This is a great fall book, especially if you're looking to be uncomfortable. I would say no book has ever made me feel quite the way that this one has before. I'm tempted to like turn the camera so you can see the cats, but my house is really messy, but they are seriously going insane. If they come back this way, maybe I'll like rotate you right quick. Next, this one is a very recent read for me. Well, I guess not that recent, but I read it this spring and I wish I would have waited till the fall, honestly. In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. This book is also very popular, and I think you're gonna catch a drift here that I'm mostly recommending books that are very popular in this video, just because I really do think that they deserve the hype. This is a dark academia. Think like Donna Tartt, but like released within the last couple years, okay? But we are following this group of 6 friends from college, and they all have secrets. They are meeting together, I believe, for like the 10-year class reunion or something. Our main character is not likable, and she is kind of just giving you the shit straight up on people in the first chapter. And you know, she kind of low-key thinks she's better than everyone else. She's very unlikable, but like in a way that's very enjoyable to read about. And we bounce back and forth between perspectives of other people as well, and then now. Someone died, and we're basically just trying to figure out like what really happened. There's so many things going on in this book and so many secrets to be revealed that I think even if you solve the mystery, there are so many other plot twists that like you will still absolutely love it, and it wouldn't even take anything away because there's just so much to find out. This whole group of very like preppy, too good for you characters is so fun to read the perspective of. I would recommend this to absolutely anyone who loves dark academia in the fall, so that is my second recommendation for you. The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson. I know she recently released another book about vampires. I haven't read it yet. I want to get my hands on it so bad. This book I remember reading in my sophomore year of college English class. Well, I really loved our discussions in that class. Most days I didn't care what was going on if we weren't talking about the books that we were reading. So I would just sit and I would open this on my laptop so it looked like I was taking notes, but I was not taking notes. I was reading this on my Kindle, and it was so good. This has some of the best like atmospheric writing I have ever read in a book. We are following our main character who's kind of an outcast of her family, and she lives in this like puritanical style town. We're not really sure what the date is or what time period we're in, obviously a long time ago. And the woods are supposedly haunted by these witches, or like ruled by these witches, and you're not supposed to go in the woods, but she does one day. And she basically kind of brings a reckoning on the town. I'm not gonna say anything else because I don't want there to be any spoilers. If you love witchy books and you haven't picked this girly up yet, I would put it at #1 on your list. I have never ever read a witchy book that's as good as this one. I'm kind of scared to recommend this next one because I know a lot of people hate it, but also a lot of people love it. So I feel okay about recommending it. I think this has been out for a long time and it's extremely popular, whether you're loving on it or hating on it, but I loved it. I was one of the people that just like ate it up. Even though I like solved the mystery a little early and it was kind of predictable for me, I was like doubting myself enough that it still made it worth it. We're following this like therapist, and he is starting to work at this new like psychiatric hospital, and there's this woman there that murdered her husband, and she has not spoken a single word since. She's like a little artist, and everyone's like, girl, Are you okay? And he's like, don't worry, I can come in and I can get her to talk. And he has such an ego. But anyway, we're basically just waiting to see like what actually happened because she ain't said anything. And I think it's been like 5 years. So this is kind of a very psychological read and I really, really enjoyed it. It does have super duper short chapters. I remember loving that. There's a sticky note in here from my grandma. I lent it to her. It says, "Thanks, McKenna. Good read." You're welcome, Grandma. I'm glad you liked it. Again, I'm going to try to run through these kind of quickly because this is a recommendation video, not necessarily a review video. So I obviously want to encourage you to read them and I don't want to give too much about them away. So I also just need some content to post and I just wasn't ready. I just wasn't ready to film this. Next, I'm going to recommend you The Great Gatsby. What is this piece of hair doing? What is she doing? This feels like fall to me just because you read it a lot, often in school. I feel like most curriculums have this in there, but if you haven't read it in a while, or if you have read it recently and you want a new lens on it, I would totally recommend reading this outside of an academic setting because it really does change what the story means to you, I think. At least it did for me. Obviously, this is set in the 20s. We are following Nick, who is our narrator. He has just moved into this humble home in New York City. There's old money and there's new money. His cousin Daisy is married to a family of like old money, and his neighbor, Gatsby, is the new money, and there's a potential love story going on between Gatsby and Daisy. This is a very short book. I think it's less than 200 pages, 164 pages. That's my edition. I don't know how much regular editions have. My edition is obviously special. It's part of a collection. It is so worth your read if you're considering it or if you've been thinking about it or if you haven't read it and you want a place to start with classics. I highly recommend this. It's seriously one of the best ones out there. The prose is so lyrical and there's so many like underlying messages that every time you read it, I feel like you can just get something new out of it. You know what I mean? Runner up for this video is The Picture of Dorian Gray. It's kind of a haunting, mysterious story. I'm sure you know what it's about, but I will quickly summarize it for you in case you're looking for other classics. I never had to read this in school, but I did have to read it in college. Actually, during that literature class that I would be reading The Year of the Witching on my computer, I read it for that class and I actually loved it. We're basically following this guy, Dorian, who's like this very handsome, wealthy man that like has it all. Kind of makes a deal with the devil to say, although that's not really how it works, where he stops aging. And it's kind of a reflection on, I guess, temperament and what really matters in life and vanity and all of those things. So if you would like to hear a commentary on that, I think Oscar Wilde does a really good job. And it's also a fairly short book. So that's another great place to start with classics. Plus it's got that haunting atmosphere of this man who just suddenly never gets older. Okay, this last one, I'm actually gonna have to reread the synopsis because while I read it not too long ago, there's just so many things happening in here that I am gonna need to remind myself what's going on. You know what? I'm gonna just read you the synopsis of this because this is a very difficult book for me to talk about, but it's one that I loved a lot. This is a young adult, like, mystery slash fantasy slash horror. If you know, like, the rhyme of the crows, I don't know what that's officially called. I know there's a name for it. I don't know what it is, but you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. It like counts the crows and each one symbolizes something, whatever that is. That plays a big, that plays a big part in here. Rules for Vanishing, Kate Alice Marshall. I'm going to read you the synopsis now because I just don't think I can do justice trying to explain it. So, once a year, a road appears in the forest, and at the end of it, the ghost of Lucy Gallows beckons. Lucy's game isn't for the faint of heart. If you win, you escape with your life. But if you lose, ... Sarah's sister disappeared 1 year ago, and only Sarah knows where she is. Becca went to find the ghost of Lucy Gallows and is trapped on her road. In the sleepy town of Briar Glen, Lucy's road is nothing more than local lore, but Sarah knows it's real, and she's going to find it. When Sarah and her skeptical friends meet in the forest to search for Becca, the mysterious road unfurls before them. All they have to do is walk down it. But the path to Lucy is not of this world, and it has its own rules. Every mistake summons new horrors. Vengeful spirits and broken, angry creatures are waiting for them to slip, and no one is guaranteed safe passage. The only certainty is this: the road has a toll, and it will be paid. Sarah knows that if she steps onto the road, she might not come back, but Becca needs her. and Lucy is waiting. So anyway, I would almost describe this as like the Blair Witch Trials, but like less scary, more fantastical. But basically this group of friends like goes into the woods to find this ghost, and they're entering this portal into like another world, and there's lots of adventurous things happening. And yes, last runner up, because okay, disclaimer, this has a partial Target sticker on the cover that I seriously cannot get off. So I don't want to be judged for it because it won't come off. Okay, this is like a runner up because I feel like this is more of a wintry book, but if you live in a place like I do where it snows in September and the snow stays for the rest of the year, it basically feels like winter starting in September, okay? So that's why I'm recommending this. Also, I'm not sure what's going on with my lighting right now and why I suddenly look like I don't have facial features. We're not gonna worry about that. It's just gonna look weird. The last one is An Unwanted Guest by Sherry Lupina. This is set in wintertime, okay? But it's a like locked room mystery, modern Agatha Christie vibes. We're following all of these people that are like in this little cabin in the woods, or I guess it's actually kind of a large cabin. It's like a bed and breakfast type situation, and they're waiting it out during a snowstorm, and someone gets murdered, and then someone else gets murdered, and they're basically trying to figure out like who did it. You know what I mean? It's very classic, but I think that Sherry Lupina writes a very convincing atmosphere here, and I really like all of her characters. I seriously could not figure it out. Like, I read this whole gosh dang thing. I think like half the characters get killed off, and I still couldn't figure out who it was, okay? This is very much a play on like And Then There Were None, which so many books are these days. I loved it, and I loved the like cozy vibe that it had going on because it's never like scary, you know what I mean? It's always just like whodunit. So I think that this, if you have the snow and you're looking to indulge, would be a great fall read. And with that, that's everything that I would recommend you read this fall. Those are some of my favorites to indulge in, some things that I definitely look forward to rereading every now and then. And I hope you enjoyed watching. This is for all the girlies out there that are in the fall spirit before it's actually fall. So this one's for you, and please keep an eye out for that vlog that I'm trying to finish and that was supposed to already be done. It should be going up soon. I'm really gonna like crack down the pressure and try to force myself to get that done within the next couple days. So anyway, thanks so much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you soon.